What's shaking, everybody? Dane La Vigne here, originally out of Detroit, Michigan, directed Dane La Vigne and the now Michael Owens Master Hierarchy. And this presentation here today is just to teach y'all kind of the basics of on the phone and setting appointments. Alright? The first thing I want to talk to you guys about is what the goal is when you're dialing and what your goal is when you're setting appointments. You always want to keep in mind that when you're setting appointments, the goal you need to have in mind is one thing and one thing only, and that is to set the appointment. Okay? These letters that you're going to have, these you call them leads, we call them responders, we call them letters. These letters that you have, when these got sent back into us, that's when the sale was made. Okay? The sale's already been made for you. All you got to do is set the appointment. Okay? When you're on the phone, in no way, shape, or form are you ever going to try to convince someone that they need this coverage or that they want this coverage. The only thing you're doing is selling the appointment. You got to get in front of them so you can play the game. Okay? Now let's talk about setup. What's your setup going to be when you're dialing? Okay? Some people do a lot of different things. This is what I found the best setup to be that makes you the most efficient at this. Okay? The best setup to have is going to be at a desk, somewhere we can have everything laid out in front of you. You're comfortable. You got a comfortable chair. You can sit back, or not necessarily sit back, but something that's just comfortable for you, where you can work and sit for an extended period of time, and you can keep organized. Okay. Now, what do you got to have with you? What are your tools going to be? Well, number one is obviously a phone, something you can dial with. Okay. Now, you want to make sure that you have your phone on the right side. Okay. If you like holding the phone with your right hand and dialing with your left hand, then you're going to want to have the phone over here. If you dial with your right hand, you have it over here. Okay, I dial faster with my right hand, so I keep it on my right side. Okay. Next thing you want to have is your leads. Okay. When you're dialing, you're going to have two stacks of leads. Okay. One stack is going to be the leads that you haven't set appointments on, and the other stack is going to be leads you have set appointments on. Okay. That's all organizing of leads you want to do. You don't want to make it any more complicated than that. Alright, also an activity book, which is going to look something like this. Okay, it looks nice and shiny, and it's got all these pages on the inside with quotes like this one here from Andy Albright. It's okay to make mistakes. We all do. But when you make the same mistake twice, you learn nothing. Okay, quotes like that, and it has pages to mark dials, how many people you talk to, all that kind of good stuff. Okay. So that's your activity book. Now, what eventually you want to happen, and my activity book was one of the prototypes, but you don't want your activity book to look all nice and pretty like this. You want it to get kind of worn out a little bit. You want it to get it to the point where you've got, the corners are kind of frayed. There's maybe tears in the edges on the inside. There's like smudges on the papers from when you're writing like crazy. You don't want it to look pretty, because if your activity book looks all pretty like this one does, that means you aren't really working it very well. Okay, so keep your goal in mind. You want your activity to look real worn out, like you actually been using it. Okay. Okay, so going back to the setup, so you got your phone, your leads, your activity book, you're at your desk, and you're ready to go. Okay. Now, here's how you move through your leads when you start dialing. Okay, you got your one stack where you haven't set appointments. So the first one, you dial it, and like if it goes to voicemail, you don't leave a message. What you do, if they don't pick up, is you just take the lead and turn it over. Okay. Now this is still all part of the same pile here, because you're just moving through it. Okay. Now say this one, you set an appointment. That one comes out here, and you write the time on it. Okay. And then this one, you don't set an appointment, it turns over. This one, no answer, and you turn it over. Okay, and keep going. Okay, this one you set an appointment, comes out here. Okay, so you got one. This stack here is you haven't set appointments on. This one you have. Okay, now it happens, and this is the tricky part, is a lot of people will get, and they're calling their last one, and they turn it over, and then they think that they don't have any more leads to dial. Okay. But here's a trick. What you do is you take the stack and you flip it back over. You put it back where it was before, and then you start over. Okay, so say you want to say your goal is $100 for the day. You're going to keep going through that and when you get done, flip it over, and you're going to start again. You're going to keep going until you hit 100 dials. Okay, you don't just stop when it gets to the last one and say like, well, they didn't answer, they're not going to answer this time. That's not true. Maybe they just got home. Maybe they were in the bathroom or the shower, or their kid was crying before. Something along those lines, okay? So what you do is you just flip it back over and keep going, okay? Now, Dane, when you actually get a hold of these people, what do you say to them? Well, that's the next part, okay? So I'm going to go with you through the basic script of what you're going to be saying to these folks when you get them on the phone. Okay, so let's say we take this one. This is Richard and Carolyn, okay? So I'll pick up the phone. I use my left hand because I dial faster with my right. And you dial 93, okay, now it's ringing. Okay, so the answer. Hello? Hi, Richard? Yeah, this is Richard. Hey, Richard, Dane here. I'm calling about the city mortgage for $75,000. Hey, Richard, I got the letter that you sent in for you and Carolyn, just saying you guys were concerned that, God forbid, if there is an unexpected death or disability, you would want the mortgage to be taken care of. Richard, I'm going to be out in the area on Friday. I could give you guys about 15, 20 minutes to get you the quote you wanted. Richard, for Friday, what time would work better for you, a 5 or a 7 o'clock? It'd probably have to be the 7 o'clock thing. Alright, Richard, can you grab something to write with for me? Yeah. Okay, I want you to write this down first. My first name is Dane. It's D-A-N-E. And Richard, what time again was that on Friday? 7 o'clock. Right, 7 o'clock. Got it. Okay, Richard. And you said that was a good time for Carolyn, too? Yeah. Alright, Richard. And I have you at 44 Lloyd Drive. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, got it. Now, Richard, that's all I have for you right now. I could be 5 to 10 minutes early or late on Friday. Should be there right around 7 o'clock. And I'll look forward to seeing the two of you guys then. Have a good night. Alright. So there's the basic phone script. Now, and then after that, all you do is you write down the time, and it comes out, okay? Now, and I actually kind of did this on accident, but you notice what I just did was I didn't hang up the phone. All I did was press this little button here, okay, the receiver. I think that's the name for it. But what you do is, what you want to do is maximize the amount of time that this phone's up to your ear and that you're talking on it. And one way to do that is have a phone that dials fast, that you can dial fast on. Another way to do that is to just keep the phone on your ear, and instead of hanging it up, all you gotta do is click this little button, and then you can either move the lead out or flip it over, and then you can start dialing again. Because you want to go through these quick. Okay, I don't know if you've ever seen Andy do this, but he has this kind of little metaphor for people that make a lot of money and people that don't make a lot of money. It kind of goes like this. So you got a phone. This is rich, and this is broke. Okay, so you want to, so like rich, broke, rich, broke. Okay, so you want to minimize the broke time, maximize the rich time. Okay, so you just keep this phone up here, and that way it's like rich, and I'm still rich. And I'm on the next one. Okay? Alright, so that's how the appointment goes. Again, I'll go through that basic script again, the beginning part. It's, first thing is, hi, is this Richard? And if it's not Richard, you want to talk to Richard because he's the one that signed the letter. Okay, so let's say that it's not Richard. She says, no, this is Carolyn. Let's back up. So, hi, Richard? No, no, this is Richard's wife. Is Richard there? Can I talk to him real quick? Yeah, who is this? This is Dane. Dane, and what are you calling about? Oh, I'm just calling about a letter Richard sent me asking me to get a hold of him. Is he around? Yeah, one sec. Okay. So you don't want to talk to the wife about it. Not because she couldn't handle it, but because she's not the one that signed the darn thing. Okay, so she might not remember it. You don't want to get in an argument with her about it. You only want to talk to Richard. Okay? So now you got Richard on the phone. And this is what you're going to say just about every time except you replace the name. Richard, this is Dane and the mortgage. Richard, this is Dane. I'm calling about the city mortgage for $75,000. Richard, I got the letter that you sent in for you and your wife, just saying you were concerned that, God forbid, if there's an unexpected death or disability, y'all would want the mortgage taken care of. Richard, I'm going to be out in the area Friday and Saturday. I can give you about 15, 20 minutes to get you the quote you wanted. Richard, for Friday, what time would work better for you, a 5 or a 7 o'clock? Okay, now notice I only gave him 2 times, and it was on one of the days. Okay, when you're calling these people that sent the letters back in, and this is not because they're not intelligent or not because they can't handle it, but you want to make this as simple as them for possible. You want to make them have to think as little as possible. And how you do that is keeping it simple by giving them 1 day and 2 times to choose from. Because if you give them 2 days, then they have to think of their schedule on those 2 days, and that might be just enough to make them want to get off the phone with you. Having to think just that little extra bit. So you take it down to 1 day. Now they only have to think about their schedule for 1 day, and you pick 2 times. Okay? And it really doesn't matter if they're available those 2 times or not. You can pick any 2 times you want on Friday. It's just the concept of keeping it simple. Okay? So if they are available, they'll pick one. And let's say they're not available at those times. He says, "Oh, Dane, neither of those would work." Okay? That would be the time objection. Sometimes people tell you that because they're sincere and they actually don't have the time, but sometimes they'll tell you that just because they want to get you off the phone. Okay? So this is how you go after the time objection. Whenever they tell you that the time is not going to work, the first thing you do is go to their schedule. Okay? You gotta figure out what they have going on. If it's on a weekday, or actually no matter what day it is, you can always use this one when they say that. You can say, "Oh, Richard, you know what? I bet you're working on Friday, aren't you?" "Yeah, I'm working." "Okay, well, Richard, what time do you get home? Or what time do you work from?" "Well, I go in at about 9, and I don't usually get home until about 7:30. "Okay, let's see. Richard, for Friday, I'd have an 8 or a 9 o'clock. Which one of those would work better?" See, because now what you've done was he's told you what time he's going to be home. He's going to be home at 7:30, and you've given him 2 times that will work when he's home, and so now he has to pick one. Okay, now when they tell you that it's the time objection and they actually do have the time, saying that, well, okay, you probably have work on Friday, don't you? What that's going to do is it's going to get them talking about their schedule, and it's going to reveal whether or not they actually do have time and what times they have available. So even if they say, like, "No, we don't really have much going on Friday," then you can say, "Okay, well, what do you have going on?" "Well, we just got something to go to around the afternoon, and then we'll be back at around 3 o'clock. "Okay, so you'd be home at like around 5 or 7 o'clock? "Yeah, probably." "Okay, well, which one of those times will work better for you?" Okay? The key is you just want to take control by asking questions. Key questions, like, "You probably work on Friday, don't you?" Things like that. Okay, that's one objection is time, and that's how you get around that one. Another common objection that people tell me about is that the person will say they're not interested. Now, you know right away when they say that they're not, that's not truthful. They are interested. If they were interested, they wouldn't have sent the darn letter back in. Okay? So what you got to do is you got to bring them back to that point when they sent the letter back in. And you do that again by asking questions. And not necessarily a question like, "Why'd you send the letter back in?" But a question like, "Okay, Richard, I hear you loud and clear. You say you're not interested. Now, when you sent this letter in, I'm looking at it here. First, Richard, do you remember the letter I'm talking about?" "Well, yeah." "Okay. Now, Richard, when you sent that letter in, what it says to me is that you were just concerned that, God forbid, if something terrible was to happen to you, that you would want the mortgage taken care of for the family. Is that what it meant when you sent it in originally?" "Well, yeah." "Okay, and do you still feel that way?" "Yeah." "Okay, again, Richard, for Friday, I'd only have about 15-20 minutes I could give you guys, but for Friday, what time would work better for you guys, a 5 or a 7? Okay, so see now what you've done, and you've brought him back to that point where he sent the letter in where he was concerned about his family, and he said he still feels that way. Now, after that, one of 2 things is going to happen. He's either going to pick a time, or he's going to tell you what the real thing is, like why he really didn't want to do it. Okay, so that's how you get around that one. And any other kind of objection, what it really is just fear. Fear of something, fear of they can't afford it, or fear of you're going to take all their time away, or fear of you're going to pressure them into doing something. Some sort of fear. So if any objection, what you want to just keep in mind and try and do is use questions to get around the fear and make them feel comfortable, and just set the appointment. Just find a time to get in front of them. Saying things like, Richard, I know you're probably afraid that some guy's going to come out to your house, take up all your time, trying to get you to buy something you don't want or you can't afford. You don't want that to happen, right? That's what you're afraid of? Yeah, okay. Well, Richard, that's not me. I'd only have about 15-20 minutes, and that was on Friday. Friday, which time would work better for you guys, 5 or 7 o'clock? Okay, just always going back to those questions, always going back to picking those times of when he can be available. Just keep throwing the times at him. Okay, and if worse gets to worse, you can always just go with, Richard, I know you're concerned about that. We can talk about that when I get out there. What time works better, 5 or 7? Just keep getting the times at him. Okay, and this training that you guys are going through right now, and specifically this portion of the phone training, watching this once or twice or even 5 times before you start dialing is not going to make you a professional at dialing. What this is going to do is it's just going to get you moving in the right direction. And after that, we can continue to make small tweaks and changes to make you better at this, but all it's going to do is get you moving in the right direction. Okay, well, Dane, how am I going to get good at this? How you're going to get good at this is doing lots and lots of dials. Okay? When you're on the phone, or even anything in life that comes up as a challenge, you always want to have the mindset of, not, I wish that this would be easier, but I wish that I was better. Okay? And in order to get better, you have to do it a lot. Lots of dials. 250 plus dials a week. For every week in a row, for an extended period of time, I'm talking months. That's what's going to make you good at this. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but once you get to the point where you're good at this, then you can start delegating it to other people, and you would have less responsibility there. But first, this is something that you have to be good at. You have to be good at talking to people on the phone, because it's going to help make you a lot of money. And it's also going to make you better at talking to people. Okay, so just remember the key is, just what's going to make you good at this is lots of dials. Just pick up that phone, don't put it down, just keep your fingers on the number pads, and I think that's all I got for you guys. But good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.